Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of Nearly Verified. This is going to be episode 10 featuring Marcel Morgenstern. So today I'd like to introduce our guest. He is an entrepreneur and a small business owner in the wine industry within the Niagara region. He is a wine expert, a marketing creative, a father, a soccer fan, and above all, an all-around nice guy. Marcel is a super close family friend and family business partner, so it's awesome to have someone familiar come onto the show and chat about his experiences as an entrepreneur. Marcel has been very vocal in the wine community within Niagara and even jumped on the opportunity to make a Restaurants of Niagara Facebook group among the whole lockdown situation, which has now gained over 20,000 group members. So this group is pretty crucial for small businesses in the Niagara region to, express their deals or what they have going on in terms of delivery and takeout options. So this group helped a lot of small businesses. They're also making a newsletter out of this group. So it is a huge step for the industry and specifically the Niagara region in terms of building back up that business that may have been lost from COVID. But overall, we talked about his story, how he got into the wine and food industry, as well as his journey both as a sommelier and an entrepreneur in the space. So Marcel is a super knowledgeable guy. I really enjoyed this conversation. He's got a lot of cool insights about the industry and about his experiences. So it was awesome to chat about that. But Marcel, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And yeah, I hope you enjoy listening. Thanks so much. Welcome back to another episode of Nearly Verified. My name is Matt Puglisi. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing Marcel Morgenstern, a close family friend and someone that has a lot of experience in the food and wine industry. So Marcel, thank you for coming on today.
Thanks, Matt.
So a lot has been going on during COVID and you've got a lot of experience throughout your career, but why don't we bring it back to how you decided you wanted to get into the food and beverage industry and become a sommelier?
Well, wine specifically. Growing up in Germany, my dad is from the Nahe Valley, which is a contributory river to the Rhine, which is, of course, one of the most famous areas known for Riesling. And so we visited my grandparents there, and I grew up in northern Germany, all very flat grass and cows. So to come into those regions there was just always beautiful. And I don't know, I had this idea in my head that one day I want to come down there and help work in a vineyard. And then things move on. Eventually ended up through an exchange discovering Canada and moving here. And as I was planning to be in the tourism business, I needed a co-op placement. And at that time it was called Hillebrand, still now Trius Winery. I decided that, hey, always wanted to work with wine. Let's try this out. And kind of got stuck. Gave up the other tourism idea because around that time, a couple of years later, the 9/11 tragedy happened, and I decided that was probably not a good time to start the tourism business from scratch. So like a lot of people, I got stuck in the industry, which is not a bad thing. So
No, definitely not a bad thing.
Was very quick overview.
No, it's good. It's good. So did you fall in love with Niagara when you first started working there, or what was your relationship with the area?
Well, first I fell in love with the person that was the reason for me to move to Niagara. But yeah, not hard to, just in case Sabrina is watching this. But no, it's of course, Niagara is easy to fall in love with. You look around, it's a global tourism destination. Driving into work, I have about a half-hour drive every morning. The drive alone back and forth is relaxing. So it's a gorgeous spot on this planet.
Yeah,
very fortunate to live here.
Absolutely. And just in terms of like the tourist industry and the wine industry specifically, it has grown a ton over the past couple of decades in Niagara. Just wondering how you've envisioned that growth, and is it something that you can see continuing to grow in the future years, even amongst COVID?
Yeah, so I think I mean what's there's a shift, right? There's been there was before COVID, things were rapidly developing. Before Niagara was known, just for the waterfalls and having a party scene up on Clifton Hill, and then for years and years, the wine industry, started to develop and really become its own tourism destination. So it's in a way, it's the region is one big tourist destination, but in another way, we actually have two major areas within the same region, because the one experience is very different from the other. So we have people visiting just Niagara Falls to take that off their checklist of great places to see, and then we have people that are coming to spend time in wine country. I remember back when I was at Niagara College for my tourism program, the big challenge that was always discussed is how, they were measuring how long visitors stayed in Niagara, and it wasn't measured in days. It was measured not in half days. It was measured in hours. And I think, if I remember correctly, at that time they were hovering around 4 hours. And the challenge, some of the things that as projects we worked on, was how do you keep the tourists longer in town? So I think the big answer to that is something like wine country, where where you have that symbiotic relationship between not just the wineries, but you have the scenery, you have the restaurant scene, you have great places to stay. So I think the region overall has really achieved that. Now, that was, always talking about visitors, a lot of visitors from outside the province, as well, from outside the country. What I see now over the last few months is that shift, where I think it's happening in every country around the world with tourist destinations, that the people in the country themselves discover what they have right at their front door, back door, and discovering it. And it's a very different type of tourism, but I think it's a very healthy type of tourism, which is really just dependent on your own economy, rather than having to worry about what other countries, regions around the world are doing. I mean, even including our closest neighbors, south of the Niagara River, where each country, I think, has to build a solid business at home and then expand from there. And I think that's what's happening right now. Forced upon us, forced upon the restaurants, forced upon every business actually, in Canada, to really look at how can we sustain business just dealing with Canadians, Canadian suppliers, Canadian customers, and see that everything, like, build a strong home base, but then adding all the other visitors and business overseas as the bonus, and maybe not as the answer to all of our problems.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really interesting how businesses, and specifically small businesses, have to shift their focus amongst COVID. I know for you and your team, it was fully e-commerce. When everything shut down, how can we move as much wine within Canada and through our, like, the export business, which was, I'm sure it was very, very difficult to kind of get around that learning curve. But now that things are opening up and now you're having more Canadians come through to the retail, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how, like, that target market for you and your team changes, and how it's going to continue to change, and how you can cater to, I guess, different kinds of tourists. It's just kind of like another obstacle that you're trying to get around. But something I'm interested in your opinion, is that I'm just wondering your experience with, large corporations versus small businesses. And there's a contrast in Niagara. You'll have, large corporate owned wineries where you'll have a different experience versus a small family owned business. So just wondering your take and your experiences on working for, large corps versus small businesses, and what kind of pulls you to be an entrepreneur. Like, why do you like that, that kind of work?
I have a million ideas a day, and every once in a while one works out. Having worked for the the bigger guys, which was great learning experience, but me personally, I felt restricted, and some ideas or a lot of ideas fail. But you only know you have a good one when after you've failed a few times and then one sticks. The thing is, mostly people just remember the one that works out, and then then you're a genius. But they don't see all the sleepless nights and all the failures before that. Barely gets talked about. Unless you really fail, then you really make the headlines, I guess. I really enjoyed watching how the big machine works, and I think the powerful combination is to have had that experience and then to apply it to a smaller business, because I think if you just do one or the other, you have a perceived, you have a perception of that other business that might not be real at all. To small businesses, I think their huge advantage is that they can adapt much faster in times like these than big businesses. In a way, it always depends on leadership and the people that you have on a team. So I don't want to say that it's not possible, but in general, I think if you have a small focused team, everybody is invested because they see that direct correlation between making a sale and a portion of that sale is going to end up in your paycheck. And if you don't make the sale, someone's going to have to get cut from the team, and it might be you. So there's a much stronger fire under your ass to get things going when you can see that you yourself, you're the department. There's nobody else that you can blame any mistakes on, and there's nobody else that you can hide behind. And if you're not moving, there's direct consequences. Where in a bigger business, I think you can get away with a few weeks and a few months, to drag things out and come up for reasons why things can change. Traditionally this big business has done things in a certain way. Let's have another board meeting and so on, and following hierarchy. A lot of people I've seen over the years have a real problem standing up in a boardroom, full of people that have worked in whatever industry it is for a long time, and you might be the new kid on the block, but you see something fundamentally wrong because of the education that you have had, or just because maybe you're seeing something with fresh eyes that other people on the team haven't. And unfortunately, I think there's a lot of people that are very intimidated by standing up and say, hey, stop. I see a major problem here. Let's have a look at how we can do this differently, rather than just following directions from the top down. So to me, that became evident very quickly that I wanted to work in a team where we can move and change things quickly.
Yeah. And that's something that I admire about your work and your work ethic, is your ability to stop and say, hey, this is not right, we should move in this direction, or just to voice your opinion. And something really cool that you touched on was the ability to move quickly and to pivot. In small businesses, it is so much more liable to be able to do that. So that's where I kind of want to move into the regulations surrounding liquor sales in Ontario. I know this has been.
Hold on, I didn't know this was part. I was gonna go open a bottle of wine before we have this conversation. I just kidding.
I know
Yeah.
it's. I'm sure it caused you a lot of headaches, but something
It's
that
10 a.m. and it is already time for a drink. No, that's
I know you may as well at this point. But
yes.
I thought it was awesome to see how much work you put in to make sure that the community knew about these regulations that were restricting small businesses. And I'll let you get into it, but
Sure.
I thought that was phenomenal. So kudos to you. And then following that, you went to social media and you started a massive community that really helps your businesses and businesses across the region. So that combination of events during COVID, I thought was just absolutely phenomenal. So I'll let you dive into it, but yeah, great job on that.
So you're talking about the petition yeah. So I guess it was the day that I realized that a big part of our business is servicing restaurants all across the province with wine and supplying them with wine, and that's really kind of how I grew up in this industry. So it's not only a big part of our income as a company, but it's also I always felt that the reason I can do the things I can do today is because of all the restaurants that have supported me over the years. So suddenly overnight, that channel, someone totally turned off the tap and there was no movement. And so, first of all, it struck me how all my friends in that industry are sitting there and obviously like living a total nightmare. Then more selfishly, I realized, I don't have anybody to sell wine to. So we are very restricted. I used to dance around it, but let's call it what it is. We're still fighting prohibition in this province and in this country. I've talked about it in different meetings and so on over the years, and was always told that things don't change that much, and I'd be silly to think that these laws that serve different interest groups, that everything will change. But my answer over the last few years has been that the dinosaurs never saw it coming either. So things do change, and it took a pandemic to and there has been small changes, but again, pandemic like this, events like this, they are catalyst, and they change things. And these restrictive laws when it comes to trade is not just for wine, it's for interprovincial trade. Whether you talk about milk quotas or you talk about, it's illegal to ship Ontario cheese just across the border to another province. So I think back to what we talked about before, that this is a time that a country like Canada really has to take a close look at themselves and say, how much business can we do responsibly within Canada to take care of ourselves, collect the tax dollars, open the provincial borders. My goodness, we're one country, and we have different laws from province to province. And I know there is reasons for that, but maybe those reasons are just not good enough anymore. So back to wine sales in Ontario, I realized that there was this big hurdle now that the restaurants were allowed to do only takeout. Wine, beer, spirits wasn't part of it. And why? Well, because just because there was an old law kicking around, and nobody ever thought that maybe we should change all of these laws and catch up to the rest of the world. So I immediately, first I went on that one train, which is here's the regulations. How do we work within those regulations and still offer takeout with wine and beer? And so for a moment I had this thought, as a producer of alcohol, I'm allowed to deliver food. So I had this one thought of, maybe I just open a food delivery service, and we allowed to sell wine with it. But then I thought, like this is just crazy. Why am I doing this? It's because of this stupid law. And as a private entrepreneur, I like, here I am trying to navigate something that really should be changed. So I decided, it's 1 week, nothing lost. I'm going to take 1 week out and just focus on, let's see what can be done to change that law. So step one, I started a petition so that I could direct people to it, to know what I'm talking about. And then I started sharing that, and I talked to and called a lot of people, interest groups in the industry, Drinks Ontario, which is an organization representing all the import agencies, the Wine Council of Ontario, Craft Wineries of Ontario, and then looked through my contacts and companies like Boston Pizza and so on, and really jumped on this, and it just became this massive effort from everyone to bring this to the government's attention. And I have to say, I was pleasantly surprised, like even, as we were gaining speed, eventually we ended up with 11,000 signatures in a week for this petition, and was able to even talk to Minister of Finance office, and they were very quick in getting me answers and keeping me up to date, which was fantastic to see. I mean, there was much bigger problems, health related during these times, but in a way, this change is amazing, because, like I said, I was told that things never change. But in the grand scheme of things, during COVID, it was, not that important, a very, very small part. But I think the bigger lesson that I have learned is that if you want something to change, you're not powerless, and you can, you just, I guess in business, it's all about leverage. You got to find the right leverage. I love what you're doing with this channel. You got to start you're starting from zero. Every time you have another view, every time you have a person on your channel, you're building up some leverage. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a good way. And I felt that, all these years in the industry, I was able to, for something important for the industry, take all those contacts and just kind of connect the dots. So that was very exciting.
Yeah. They're sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, and then it was great to hear also Ontario Restaurant Hotel Motel Association really jumped on it, and like Pelee Island Winery, for example, and they just reached out to all of their members, all of their employees, and I got encouraging emails, from quite a few people, and I know people then took it upon themselves to talk to their local MPs and so on. So it just, in a week, it really snowballed. And after, like, it was amazing. After day 2, I was on CP24 talking about this, and different CBC radio stations across Ontario. I think that was on day 3 or something of that petition. So also showed me that it was all about timing. And I think that's the same, all about timing. Sometimes you can plan for it. Sometimes you just got to be opportunistic. That was the same with what you referred to, the Restaurants of Niagara Facebook group. Before COVID, and maybe, when COVID is over, or not that much of a topic anymore, that probably wouldn't have been possible, but the time was right to build this community. So
Yeah.
do you want me to talk about that a little bit, or?
Yeah, I would love to just touch on that. But just going back for 1 second to
Sure.
like changing those laws and regulations. I was looking into it, and it is crazy, as you're saying. Like, it's almost is like the prohibition for the province. Like in other provinces, for years, like a few years, they've been able to have like beer, wine, and alcohol served in their Uber Eats orders, which is
Yes.
kind of like bizarre to think about in Ontario having that opportunity, but it's a real thing that's happening across the country. So it's very exciting that you were able to make movements in that direction. Not only with the use of social media, but yeah, like all of the connections you had in your network. But yeah, just in terms of social media, you took advantage of bringing all of these local businesses together in the Restaurants of Niagara group, and it's now almost hitting 20,000 members. So just want to a quick rundown of your experience there, your pains and your gains from Restaurants of Niagara.
Yeah, so not my idea, but I was invited to, when things shut down, I was invited to this group in Burlington by one of my contacts that basically they talked about, now that everything is shut down, can we get takeout from our favorite restaurants that never offered takeout before? I'm like, oh, this is cool. And now I had the experience with that petition, and that project was done. And, as we were looking at how are we changing our business to online, I thought, well, with, maybe this is something else that I can do for my friends in the industry, and just started like really quickly, no plan, just went in, gave the thing a title, created the page, and then invited my Niagara contacts. And then I turned away and kept working on other stuff. And holy shit, it just like exploded. So I don't even know in the beginning at what speed anymore. But so yeah, from, I don't know, it was March 17th or something. No, sorry, actually, I think it's a week later. So last week of March to now, 20,000 members. We have, then in the beginning, and I'm going to start that again now. I started to do fundraisers for the food banks. So, I figured that it's a free service for everybody. And it's, I have two other people helping me out to monitor things, because, yeah, after 10,000 people, for anyone starting a Facebook group, everything is fine until 10,000 people. After 10,000 people, some of the crazies come out. So you do have to keep a lid on that. So definitely my learning curve was you need at least one other person, and encourage members to report content. Otherwise it gets out of hand. But I think we have a pretty good handle on it now. So yeah, it just grew rapidly. We did some fundraisers in the beginning, because my thought was, if the restaurants can advertise for free, and the members have a free way of figuring out where to order food from sitting on their couch. So nothing's for free in the world. So and people really caught on, and had some generous donations to these food banks, kind of as their fee, which was great. And then we started, I don't even quite remember how it started the first time. I think one of the restaurants reached out, and now we have, every time there's 1,000 members, I've done a $300 giveaway and gift certificates. So every restaurant that participates pitches in a $50 gift certificate, and I pitch in a $50 gift certificate for our online wine shop. And it's, in the beginning, I ran these giveaways just by likes and comments on the Facebook page. But after we hit over 2,000 likes and comments, I was like, yeah, this is crazy. I was creating spreadsheets and so on. So we switched to an email list. So people now sign up, and we have, I think there's now 3,500 people or something signed up on this email list. And we just do the draws through that, way easier. And then we have taken it to the next level. And right now, monthly, we're probably going to switch to bi-monthly. We do a newsletter. Our volunteer goes out and talk to the restaurants, and does kind of an interview with them. and then they would create a secret meal deal that's just available to people, or just advertised to people in the group for those restaurants. And yeah, we'll expand that. I think I'm at the point I'm gonna have to look for someone that wants to do an internship on just running that, because now it's starting to grow into another job.
Yeah.
And yeah, not paying at the moment, but that's okay. But again, I met some really great people through this. We've heard of, then you wonder, is it all worth it? What's the impact? Because we have over 100,000 likes and comments. Over 100,000 posts and comments a month on this thing. So you don't see everything. And so, yeah, I think there's opportunity to grow this. As some of the businesses have contacted us and let us know that A, they survived because of it, or B, they were able to expand. And it's been really great to see some of the businesses that I guess that's the word of 2020, pivot, that have really pivoted and embraced social media through different ways of what they're posting, how they're interacting with the people in the group. It's been a really great experiment, and we've learned a ton for our own business as well. So I try to keep it very separate, but using the same, and it's definitely meant as a service to the industry, but it's been great to integrate our knowledge and gaining new knowledge for our wine business as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's such like reciprocal value for that community. So many businesses, like you even said, that saved from that group. People hearing about their their new deals, or they're reopening their patio or whatnot. I think it's a fantastic group, and a lot of people are gonna be serviced through that, which is awesome. And that, again, yeah, going back to the pivot and utilizing social media right now, whether it's e-commerce, which I actually read an article, I think it was a few weeks ago, but the e-commerce industry has leaped forward 2 to 4 years because of COVID. People are having to adapt.
We have definitely, yes.
Absolutely. And it's, it's scary at first. I'm sure it's a daunting task to take on all of this growth in e-commerce and social media, but I think in the long term, it's going to help a lot of businesses. I know it's difficult, but just having those skills and having those, that foundation laid, and that community is definitely a huge piece to that, that puzzle.
I tell you what, I've come to realize what the biggest challenge is. First of all, there's not a lot of people that love change. So I think that was, and so no matter what it was, whether it's online marketing or whatever, people generally speaking are not very good with change. Everybody says they are, but you start to realize that they're really not. So I could see specifically in this group of restaurants, and unfortunately, it's twofold. Unfortunately, and even still, there's a lot of restaurants that, quite frankly, need to do a much better job in social media. And you're right. This development would have happened anyways, but COVID sped it up by 3-4 years. But if you want to be a viable business, you have to embrace it. And it's the cheapest way of marketing right now. And it's so measurable. Everything else you've becoming a dinosaur, and you have to be online. And there's many different ways of doing it. I'm not talking about just one platform versus the other platform. You got to do all of them. You got to be everywhere. And even though your business has been successful for the last 50 years, and your grandparents have started it, and your parents have taken it over, and then now you're growing it, it doesn't mean anything anymore, because you can see that there is new businesses popping up that had zero customer base, and they have gone online and created a presence, and suddenly everybody is flocking to it. So that is proof alone that your business has to change. It is just no easy way of sugarcoating it or wrapping it up. It's the absolute brutal honesty. And it was the same for us. The wine industry in general is so far behind usually when it comes to all of those things compared to other industries. Again, you could totally see it. People that had always worked on building some kind of online presence, and I had some conversation with other wineries. I tell you, it was painful. I've been trying to do an online business, like a substantial online business, for the last 3 years. And the effort to get people to buy wine online, oh my God. Like, I think sometimes if I had really wanted to, I could have probably spent more money on driving people to the online shop than actually selling wine in the online shop. And that is totally reversed now. So we were lucky in a way that we had started that process. So we did not start from zero. We were just, all the things that I had planned to do this year and next year, we just did it in 2 weeks, and we're able to totally ramp it up. So we were, and then we immediately found out that the platforms that we were working with wasn't really gonna bring, like, would have been fine, but not to the point where we wanted to be. So we just, after 3 months of working on it, we ripped up everything and we totally relaunched our online shop. Luckily, without any major glitches, so that was good. But yeah, so I think and then I was gonna say, so the biggest challenge is you can easily find somebody. I go on a rant on influencers, and someone called me an influencer the other day, and I did not take it lightly. You can get lost if you don't know what you're doing with social media, just like with any other industry, and you feel so helpless, and you're going to go out and get help. You can spend thousands and thousands of dollars on someone to do your, graphic designer, photographer, someone to run your social media. Then they want to get more likes. Then they're going to find influencers, which, by the way, influencers are there to promote one thing and one thing only. That's themselves, because that's how they build leverage. And the best influencer for your product, in my mind, is you yourself, and not someone else. That's looking to promote themselves, just themselves, as the product. And I'm happy to have a total battle with that. That'd be a good segment for something else.
Yeah.
So versus influencers. I have had too many bad experiences. So my suggestion would be for those people, take a week out. 1 week is not going to make the difference, and start learning about the stuff yourself. Everyone has a camera. Everyone is connected. And now more than ever, people don't want to see a shiny ad. They want to see real. So if you're a restaurant, take a picture of what's prepping in the kitchen. Show your staff prepping the food. Do a little video about what's this week's feature. It does not have to, it can be shaky. It doesn't have to be clear. None of those things, because you might think, oh, it's just another day in the kitchen. People don't get to see that. They want to see that. So forget and people want to support that local small business. So that would be, that would be my suggestion. So finally, because I'm going in circles, the biggest challenge with online business is not building the front door. There is easy ways of building websites. There is easy ways to integrate online shop. And so wrapping your head around those things, someone that's a little techie, easy. The biggest problem with online shopping experience is what, as an older generation, you should know best, but that's where it all falls apart, because people only think about, oh, my bricks and mortar, and here's my online shop. So biggest problem is fulfillment. You gotta have responsible people to put orders together. you got to get them out on time, you got to work with the right delivery company, and you got to realize that this is like, I guess they call it retail, is it 3.0, I guess? 1.0 was bricks and mortar, 2.0 was having bricks and mortar and the online shop treated as two separate things. This is everything together. Whatever happens in your online shop, I want that experience to be exactly the same as if I'm walking through your front door. And I think that's where also in our industry, definitely, but also let's get back to restaurant industry. I want that same good attention to service as I'm having in person. And I know I'm not alone, and I see comments and so on, and that's where a lot of the frustration is. And I've seen it at building centers, I've seen it at greenhouses, and it's so easy to manage, but you gotta manage just like you wouldn't go and advertise that you have X amount of flower pots for sale, get everybody to your store driving down to see you, and when they get there and say, yeah, sorry, we only had one and we're not getting any more in. So I don't want to be in an online shop already, and I'm speaking from my own experience multiple times, spending the money thinking, oh, this is fantastic. It's described, I just drive up, they put it in my trunk, I paid it, done. Yeah, so you pay online, you pick your stuff, you get there. Oh, sorry, what, you ordered online? Yeah, I gotta go to this person and find this order. And oh, we actually don't have this, this, and this. Okay, so how do I get my money refunded? Yeah, you gotta come into the store, and on the credit card machine, we're gonna refund you. That is terrible. So the fulfillment part of online business is, I think, in a way more important than getting the sale in the beginning. So when we talk about pivoting and changing to online business, it's not just, oh, I can sit behind the keyboard. The physical work part is in a way even more important now than it was before, because people have this expectation when they see a pretty online shop. I want the experience to be like that all the way through.
Yeah, I think connecting those dots is probably the hardest element of, like navigating COVID. Having a shop where maybe you didn't have too much traffic, now all of your traffic coming through there, and translating that into curbside pickup or whatever it is, delivery. Difficult, but it's good that you've gotten that head start, and you wrinkled out the issues early, or you ironed out the wrinkles early.
Yeah.
No, it's very cool to see, and I love your points about having a presence online, and your spiel about influencer marketing. I know you probably have some feelings towards that, but I think it's super interesting how easy it can be to have that online presence. Like you said, all you need is your iPhone camera. Doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be anything special, but just getting an inside look and a genuine look. Like you don't need to spend thousands of dollars on a set. You just need to be authentic and show your business, show some personality. Like you said, like you are the best influencer for your business, which I love. Like I'm going to quote that after, because I think it's a very good point, and people, especially in small businesses, need to take a look at how they're being presented or represented online. And it really does not take a whole lot of time or resources in order to show up, basically.
So I think, and to open the argument and to settle it hopefully in one go, and maybe this is also a time for that influencer community that before COVID in a way was so far ahead of everybody, because they understood how to create the connections and how to promote themselves. I think they have to now change as well in a dramatic way, because if I'm a struggling business and you're offering your services as an influencer, what value are you giving me? You, like, other than just because again, we talk about that people want something real. Well, everybody that is on social media and is integrated with social media and lives it every day already knows what the influencer is all about. I didn't just tell you some crazy secret here. And we know there's influencers that use different ways other than actual value. And, you know, some of them just look prettier than you and me, and have thousands of followers. But for someone like that to promote my product, or not even promote, it just gets placed. Does that really lead into a real connection with the product and into a real experience? Or does everybody already know, yeah, you did it because you could get something for free and now you post it, and really, again, it's about how you look in the shot, and you're building more followers. That does, as a business, that does not give me value. For us, I'm looking for people that are genuinely interested in the product, and are already passionate about it. And then if someone says, hey, let's do something, and I see a fit here, and they can present leverage to me, and then I'm interested. I think that whole industry of influencers really has to have a hard look at what they're doing, because there is great potential. I mean, in the end, it's all about followers, but what are you doing with that follower base? I think is very important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So
value, everybody wants value.
No, it's true. And what's your ROI going to be on hiring one of these people or doing a certain campaign? Right. It's interesting. But as we're coming to the end, Marcel, I was hoping to do a little bit of a lightning round, just fire off a few questions for you. And then whatever comes to top of your head, just go with that. So are you ready for it?
Go.
All right. What is your motto in life?
Oh, motto in life. I have many, but it's a movie quote. Never give up, never surrender.
I like it. I like it. What movie is that from?
It's from, oh my God, Galaxy here. Oh my God, I can't even remember now. Okay, you stumped me. Never
That's
mind.
No problem.
Someone will comment on it, and
we'll find it. Someone you looked up to when growing up.
Sorry?
Someone you looked up to when growing up.
When growing up? Probably my dad. Nice. And my mom, yeah. That's the first people that you want to impress, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect wine to pair with a hamburger is?
Totally depends on the situation. Can be an easy, simple burger wine, or can be a beautiful bottle of high-end, wherever it might be from. I think burgers are so versatile that it just depends on, I don't think you have to go with a certain price category. If you feel like open that big, expensive bottle of red, the burger will be just fine. But definitely reds. If it's Niagara, Cab Franc for sure.
Cool. I like it. We'll go with, what is the number one thing you say to your staff before a busy day?
Before a busy day. Sometimes I forget to say good morning because my brain is already at it, which I have to get much better at. But usually I just, ask what's on the docket, what's on the dance card, like tell me what's going on. So I always feel that, instead of me going in and saying, this is what we got to do, I think that's a much better way to approach it, because that gives people the opportunity to take ownership. I'd much rather hear from them what we as a team have to do than me piecemealing out every step of the way.
Yeah, that's an example of servant leadership, seeing how you can help your team, which is awesome.
I didn't know. Thanks for enlightening me.
Now you know.
Now I know.
All right, last question for you, Marcel. What are some pieces of advice you'd give to 20-year-old Marcel?
To 20-year-old Marcel. Yeah, still make the move to Canada, I guess. So, I didn't have big worries because I always figured that I can move back to Germany if I wanted to. But I think I guess I would just say, yeah, you know what, just do it, don't think twice, and go forward. And I have to admit, I don't have many regrets. So I've didn't have super difficult childhood or anything, but definitely I think in general, now that I'm thinking about it, don't worry about what other people think, to a degree, but to a responsible degree. But only because it hasn't been done before doesn't mean it can't be. So just try different things out and see what makes you happy.
For sure. That's an awesome piece of advice. And I think we will just end off the episode. If you've got anything that you wanted to plug, like where can people learn more about your businesses and find out about your products?
Sure. It's pondviewestatewinery.com, burnchipbay.com for our other wine business, and restaurantsofniagara.com if you're interested in checking out that group. And other than that, we'll see everyone on Facebook, LinkedIn, and actually that's it. I ditched Twitter. Too much noise.
There's a lot going on.
Right after I said you should be on all platforms, I didn't mean Twitter. So anyway.
That's awesome. Well, Marcel, thank you so much for coming on the podcast to chat. Really appreciate it. Learned a bunch about your story and about your experiences. Thanks again for coming on.
Great job with the podcast, and hopefully I have more interesting people than me on sooner. So I'll be watching.
I appreciate it.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Okay, take care.